give a fuck? Why do I give a fuck? Why do I try so hard? Why do I care so much?
Welcome to Why Do I Give a Fuck? A cross-cultural conversation between myself, Deanne Tate,
and Johanna Thompson. In these times of great struggle and possible shift, we ask ourselves,
why do we give a fuck about any of it? How does the lens we see the world through impact what we see?
And what do we do about it?
Hello, welcome back.
Hey, glad to be back again, having conversations and exploring all of the things that we like to talk about and explore. And one of the things that I wanted to do was kind of like go down this rabbit hole. We were talking last time about communication and the ways that the tools that we can use to kind of get to this North Star of a more harmonious existence amongst humans in this current day and age when we're having so much violence and harm. And then just talking about like AI. And have you had a conversation with ChatGPT as of late?
I haven't, and I gotta say, I stay away from it. First of all, I forget that it's there. I just don't,
Mm.
I don't know. It's not the first thing that comes to mind. And I like to write, and so I guess maybe it just hasn't come up in my lexicon. I know there are people that rely on it greatly because they have a hard time putting things together. So I don't know exactly what contributes totally to it, but I do get scared about it. I mean, I was just sharing with you that we got a comment on our website, and when I was reading it, I was like, I'm not sure this is human. I think this might be Chat GPT or AI or something. I don't know. So, but I find myself reading things lately to try to discern whether or not it's real or it's Memorex. And for those old people that understand and relate to that lexicon or that throwback statement. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Have you used it lately?
I do. I
Oh,
do. I do. I do. Well, first of all, what is happening as we're talking about this conversation of like communication and transformative justice and kind of like our root theories of existence, having this engagement with a tool that is able to aggregate more information than we can with our human minds. So like you're getting a more diversified perspective of data that has been aggregated and spitting out uh, an answer to an exploratory question that you have, and then that engagement being really give and take. I don't, we know that it's not a human
mm-hmm.
connection, but it is like it's giving human connection on 100,
Mm.
right? Because you're just getting like so much more information. I just watched this dope movie with Jennifer Lopez,
Okay.
and oh, it was called Atlas, I believe. It was called Atlas. And what's happening, the premise of it is that she's a scientist. AI has an Elon Musk type figure has programmed AI, excuse me, to genocide humanity.
Oh.
And I know, and they were able to stop that genocide, but now they're like going after the remaining AIs. And so she doesn't want to have nothing to do with AI. She has gone back to our analog stages where they're in a future world where you can clip this thing onto your ear and
Mm.
then it connects you to your AI. So we have it with our phones now with our AI connected to us. But now they have this thing where you connect to your ear and then the AI is connected to your brain. So it superpowers your brain. So whatever your brain is thinking, it's going to give you the 10 powered information about it, right? So like there was a scene, I'm trying to give examples. There was a scene where she got thrown into one of these super machine things that humans use in the future. But
Oh.
she needed to be connected to her AI because she didn't know how to drive it. But if she had connected to her AI, her brain would have known where it was because the AI would have put the information in her brain. That's the stop button, that's the missiles, that's the da da da. It would have synced her brain to know. she didn't want to do that because she didn't want the AI controlling her brain. So like that was the premise of like the story. She had to develop a relationship and a trust with AI to then be able to integrate that into her life in the way that everybody else was living at this time. And when thinking about that, there are with everything pros and cons. I do understand how this character in particular does not want their mind to be controlled. But then I also think about the reality of how we are taking in information and and to have this desire to not want to have your mind controlled when we use our technology to help us produce everything, and our technology is giving us the knowledge outside of our mind for
Mhm.
what we're doing. So I loved what you said. I'm a writer, so I don't really use, AI agents to help me write now because I am doing my own processing of the information.
Yeah.
I am a writer also, but and I'm not writing for my own personal packet. I'm writing for other people. So I don't, I'm tired of doing that. And AI assists with
Yeah.
making it much easier to formulate the words and the sentences and the grammar as long as you know how to prompt. And so the integration of that, if we're looking at it in the larger context of like our global condition right now, is I am always concerned with what information AI is aggregating and if we are going to see the same outcomes of hierarchical division that we see already. And the example I speak to that is that I was playing around with AI and there was a an old, can't remember what the song was, but it was a live song that was a soul funk song that was being played. And it's a song that we all know. I just can't remember what it was. And it was just a badass song. And so asking Chat GPT, hey, tell me the song and give me the lyrics. And it was like, I don't understand. I don't know the song and I don't understand this lyrics because it was a live, you know, interpretation of the song music.
Okay.
And and then the chat GPT started to say things like, well, because it's obscure, it's unusual, and it was black soul music. So if we are relating obscure, unusual, blah, blah, blah to Black soul music, then the information that this AI is going to hold is that when it hears this type of music that it doesn't understand, it's going to
Hmm.
call it obscure and unusual, and all of these labels and diction that would be negative, which then you would start seeing the same type of things that we see now in racist narratives that this thing is obscure
Right.
so I think about using AI in a way that I am feeding into it the positive things that it wouldn't have data to aggregate just yet because those who have access to the technology and the movement come from a specific perspective and resource. And a majority of those people are, I don't know who it is because I also know that there's, black tech moguls. But I do know that we need to be thinking about how it is that we are integrating all of the information that we have in fairness without the narratives that we already come in our understanding, where we would use language like obscure and unusual to
Hmm.
ascribe to something that I would have said, this is a brilliant, genius, methodology of putting music together. It's a different thing that the AI is receiving. And then AI, we're also watching how it gets things wrong, but as the days progress, because it is calculating and aggregating data at a rate that we are not able to do, it
Hmm.
is able to correct itself at a rate much faster than we can even catch up with as humans.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
going to be really interesting.
I'm curious. I have a curiosity about what you were talking about in terms of trying to change. What I heard you saying is that you're using Chat GPT and hoping that your inputting to it is going to shift how the words that it uses to speak
Hmm.
potentially about, you're helping to reframe it because it's got a narrative about black music or black soul music that clearly probably did not come from the community to which it might belong or feel the most comfortable in. And so
Hmm.
I hadn't thought about that, the concept of the more you use it, it's what I don't know why, but I've got jury duty on the brain right now because my partner just had jury duty and my daughter just had jury duty in two different states on the same week, which is just bizarre. But my daughter was belly aching about it and not wanting to go. And I said, "Look, I said you need to be there. You're in South Carolina. They need people like you on the jury because it's so imbalanced. It's a deeply red state, and we all know the fallacies of South Carolina." But I said the same thing to my partner, who was not really that easy, who's a identifies as a black man, and he said, he's like, "I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it." And I said, "Yeah, but they need people like you on the jury." So that's what made me think of. It's like you've got to be a part of the process to be able to then help navigate the narratives and shift the narrative. If you're not in the discussion, you can't shift the narrative. So that's what I heard you saying. I don't know if that's what
Hmm.
you were saying, but
No, yeah, no. We need to have a diversity of people like feeding into the knowledge base and the data that is being aggregated
yeah,
with AI because it is providing like a benefit and a service, and we're going forward with it. We're not
yeah,
getting away
it's
from
not
AI,
going anywhere.
right?
Right.
And like on the global economic scale, AI is going to be replacing a lot of human jobs and work. And then so as there is less job and work for humans, what is it that we are going to be expected to be doing? I know that it still necessitates us prompting the AI. So we're going to have to be able to like fine tune how we're asking the AI to support us until we get to that place when the AI already understands our brain in a way that we are doing it consciously because we're doing it unconsciously now with our phones, right? We're we're
Oh
talking
yeah.
in one on it and it's recording us.
A
Hmm.
perfect
Go ahead.
example is autocorrect, right? If
Absolutely.
you spell a word, and you spell it wrong or you spell it in a way that you want it, but autocorrect will correct it. If you correct autocorrect like two or three times, then it learns, and all of a
But
sudden
it is
it'll start typing that word on the
the
right.
way you want it.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about AI taking over for jobs and stuff. I mean, when I'm in grocery stores, I don't use self-checkout. I don't like to use it. I try to
Hmm.
avoid it. Sometimes I can't avoid it, just given time constraints or whatever. Or maybe they don't have any human-run checkout lines, bless you, that are going. So, but I don't like using it because I know that the more we use the self-checkout, the less they will hire people to actually work at the cash registers, which means their jobs are gone. And so it's just little things like that my little acts of resistance on any given day because yeah, I know that advancement is necessary. And it's kind of, it reminds me of the argument of renewable energies and coal and natural gas energies that want and oil that want to keep their industries alive, but we keep saying, well, it's killing the planet. There are alternative methods. And then they say, well, yeah, but all these jobs are going to be gone. And what is everybody going to do? It's like, well, you got to train them to work in the
Could
renewable.
do something.
So yeah, I know that and then the other thing I'm thinking about is Star Trek. I'm getting back to Star Trek. Sorry, guys, but all things lead to Star Trek for me. In the most recent Star Trek series called Discovery, which just ended
Hmm.
last year, they have this concept that on the ships, on the Discovery ship, they have an AI. They have a computer, and they usually call it
Hmm.
computer. In all of the Star Trek entities, it was always computer,
Computer.
aggregate information, da 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 da, and the AI would do what it needed to do. Well, in Discovery, the AI, the computer becomes sentient,
Hmm.
and
In
and
all the stories.
it asks to be called Nora,
Hmm.
Zora, not Nora, Zora. So now they're, instead of saying computer da 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 da, they would say, Zora, can and even the phrasing that they speak to the computer with is
Now
different.
gentle.
Because now it's like a person. It's like
Hmm.
a sentient entity. And
Which is what Chat GPT is now. You can you can it like when you speak to
people
it
are
more, it
sentient.
starts to
I
know
don't
you. So it'll be like you ask it something and it'll be like, okay, hi, hey Johanna, how are you doing today? All right, so you want to know about this? Like it's
Does it really?
literally,
See, that
yes.
shows you how long it's been since I've used it. I don't even know that. Wow.
If you have a conversation with your chat GPT every day, if oh you could have a therapy with your chat GPT. You could create your own therapeutic
Wow.
situation with your chat GPT. And it'll check in on you when you come back to it and say, oh, do you want to pick up where we left off on the
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it's a real engagement with artificial intelligence, and that artificial intelligence is having is able to aggregate more information than we can because it has a larger resource that it can aggregate from.
You know that, but doesn't it scare you that it's becoming, does it worry you at all? That it's becoming more closer and
Um,
closer to sentient?
when I'm watching those movies and things like that, I'm like, this is not the world I want to live in. And the reason why it's not the world I want to live in is because the what I'm seeing visually is that we don't have hills and grass and
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying? We go into a technological industrialization that I moved to an island that is way behind in what's
Yeah.
happening on US territory because
Yeah.
that feels more comfortable and it feels more authentic. It feels more melodic. It feels much more of a vibration. I don't feel a vibration when I'm having conversations with ChatGPT. I'm like, just like, give me the information that I need.
Right.
And I also don't like when ChatGPT doesn't do exactly what I want it to do. I mean, I like what I want anyway, but when I'm talking to something that's artificial and I'm giving it an instruction and it's not giving me what I want or whatever, and it's artificial, then I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, you're not supposed to have your own mind.
Mm.
It does. It has its own reference. It will, respond like I don't when Siri started, it's a very white culture thing in my
Yeah.
opinion, to say, hey, can I have something? And it responds like what or you, that's something that in my culture would be unacceptable. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to talk to Siri because it does that. And I don't know how to change it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I
Yeah.
get frustrated every time I'm like, hey Siri, and it's like, yes, what?
Oh,
That's not what we do. That's not how we answer. You know what? But you can't change that on a chat GPT. So it's little things like that. Like I don't want to exist in a world where I'm being challenged by something that I know is not real because as a black woman, I exist in a life where I'm being challenged by things all the
all
time.
the
Now you're
time.
just gonna add a whole other thing that I'm gonna be challenged by. Not exciting for me. So that's the part that's not exciting. And then that also gives me the motivation to be playing in it so that it does have some of my cultural cues. It does have some of the language that I need. It does have learning to adapt to what I can exist in comfortably. Because if it's just existing in folks that are typically, ooh, do I want to say this?
Hmm.
Because I'm thinking about the people who do computer coding and there's a narrative around them, and I just checked in with myself to be like, maybe that's not appropriate. But
Hmm.
I don't know what the social abilities of folks that are doing coding looks like. And we do have the narrative that that's what they spend their time doing, which
Yeah.
means that you're not having the relationship or the expansive cultural cues with like human connection.
Right.
Um, so, but
Yeah.
they are trying then to make AI be able to reflect and demonstrate human emotion and human connection. So,
Yeah.
it's a give and take, and it's where we're going. It's the future. So I don't want to be outside of the benefits of that future.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Sometimes it feels like a boulder that's, rolling down the hill. That I've watched several movies where usually futuristic kind of shows or movies where the AI takes over or becomes aggressive
All
toward
of them.
the beings and takes them out and requires intergalactic
interventions to
Inter-
shut it down.
well, and like outlawing
Hmm.
AI or outlawing
Hmm.
synthetics as they're called in the Star Trek world of android people that have sentient AI technology. And so yeah, and then I'm also thinking about the movie Wall-E, the children's
Yeah,
movie. Well, I mean, it was a kids movie. It was animated, but it was, it had a lot of really good themes in it. But I'll never forget watching that the first time, and all the humans, they're living up on a star in
right.
space because they've killed the planet, so they're living up on a star, space station or whatever, and they're all sitting in chairs that move, they're on conveyor belts or they're on wheels or whatever, and they've got a screen in front of them, and they can be talking to another, human next to them, but they're talking through the screens because they don't
True.
just turn and look at each other. And they've all gained weight. They've all gotten very large and yes, I mean, it's
We're
got
doing it already.
I know. I mean, it's gotten even worse over. I remember the first time I saw that movie. I don't remember what year it came out, but my daughter was younger, and I remember the first time I saw that movie, and I thought, "Oh my God, are we heading in that direction?" And yes, we
We're
are.
here. We're here. We
Yeah,
literally are already here.
yeah.
And it's like, how do we use this AI and technology to do transformative justice, to
Mm,
help shift, some of what it is that we have already existed in into something that's better. And we are being challenged to do that because AI does have the ability to say, this is not the right course of action. That was what was happening in this movie. There was a calculation for the person to use the armor that she was placed into to get to the saving station that was like 99 kilometers away. And
okay.
then the AI did a calculation and it said, I only can take you 33 kilometers, walking. So there's 66. So I do not advise you to move. And so the machine was not allowing her to move because it wasn't going to be able to get to the destination. And she
Got it.
had to like cut off all the power and do some stuff to like get the manual to go. And it's only because she knew how to do that that would she know how to do that.
Right.
And that is the thing. If we are creating something that is artificial, I don't want it to challenge me. Like I don't want a car to drive me around because there is a human capacity and ability that I have. I know a car can assist, but like I want to be able to control that machine because if there is something that the AI misses,
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm hearing that those driverless cars in California have had some major accidents,
Mhm.
right? People have died in them because there's not an actual human steering the wheel.
Right.
It's a computer.
Yeah, it's
So it's
twofold.
things that we
Either they can break and they can malfunction and cause harm, or they can be taken over, by some other outside entity that can
that
then
is it
make them
too.
go, yeah, they can then make them go where it wants to go, not the person that's actually in the vehicle and wanting to drive. So yeah, it's how much do we want to. I think a lot of this technology came into being because we thought it was going to make life easier.
And
And
it does.
it does, and there are also real pitfalls.
Consequences.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so I think it's really interesting to think about how we could utilize AI to create this transformative world that we might want. Can AI be helpful in creating? And I really, I'm thinking about what you said in the last episode where you talked about helping people who are in a restorative justice circle, helping victims of violence or harm imagine how they could be
Hmm.
restored by the person that caused them harm, above and beyond, well, I want them to die because they killed my child, and so I want them to suffer the same fate. Sometimes it takes another person in the circle to say, what would you think about
Consider
this?
this.
And that
Hmm.
that that feels like would be a great use of AI to help people get past maybe their
Wrong understanding.
Right. And their block may be based on trauma and whatever, it's rightly so that they have a block, but yeah, there could be a lot of uses for it. The question is anybody using it for that?
Oh, I think yes. I mean, people are playing with AI in like all different kinds of ways. You know, there's AI therapy now, there's AI, you know, everything, writing thing, like it's there. It's aggregating data and providing information,
Mhm.
right? And that is what it's built to do for us. Um, and I also think about, as we're thinking about the ethics of AI, how
Mhm.
it is that AI is actually becoming a part of human body, right? So the actual scale between human and AI is becoming more close, because we do use our phones and everything like that to think, to record memory for us, right? So we're losing some of our capacity, because how many numbers do you actually remember? Back in the day, we had to remember phone numbers, and now we do
I
not do
barely
that.
remember my
Little
own.
things like that, right?
Yeah.
Navigating the streets, we're using this thing. So it's not like we're paying attention in the same way to navigation and to
Right.
cues, which is not like intelligent. And then we're also having all of this like kind of medical evolution and enterprise, where there technology is being put in our bodies, right? So vaccines technology is being put in our bodies. If you have to get any form of, you know, thing that fixes
Aesthetic.
your arms or limbs.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a technology that's being put in our bodies, and that does alter human DNA. It just does, because we're evolving with this other component of
Mhm.
thing that we're putting into
Right.
our bodies, and we procreate. So,
Mhm.
so we also have to be thinking about that in the future in this conversation of ethics, and how it is that we are going to exist together as we are integrating and evolving humanity with technology. Technology outside and apart from us, but then technology infused into us. Companies and workers, right? Now we are watching an economic gap that is happening. And I said it's the question of, when technology takes over some of the manual labor that we have existing, like I hear that there are Amazon warehouses that only have like 3 employees in certain places, because it's everything else is automated with machine and AI, right? And we know Amazon warehouses and their debt systems with the prisoners and all that use um, human labor. When all of that is wiped out, and there is this economic gap of resource, and there is a mass of workers that exist and need to, and would want to be doing something to be able to have what we need to live, the ethics between that, what is that going to look like? Because right now we have this narrative with migrant people. If
Right.
they're coming over and they're taking our jobs, that creates a war-like mindset and narrative to like become nationalist nations once again,
Mhm.
as we had started to kind of have this global integration. Now we're going back to kind of like, okay, nationalists, we see in Africa, they're cutting themselves off. We know Europe has always been doing what they're doing, and we see the US territory, and Russia decides that Russia needs to have what it has. So like the continents are breaking apart together, as we're having more opportunity and ability to be in connection with each other through technology and understand what's going on, like in the social context of like the area that you're in.
Mhm.
All of these things are like the conversations that our leaders and our community members need to be thinking about, because it does have an impact and a change on
Yeah.
how we exist. If technology is better able to determine that somebody is doing something that breaks a law, more people are going to get locked up
Yeah. And we've already got that. We've got the cameras above the intersections and facial recognition
all over the.
everywhere. And yeah, yeah.
We have laws changing. If you do A, B, and C that used to not be criminalized,
Mhm.
now it is criminalized. And
Mhm.
so we have to think about that. And then what are workers going to actually be doing if AI is doing what we understand um, jobs to be?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't even know what that is. I'm imagining it's going to be more entertainment and service oriented ways of making money, but a lot more talking and a lot more, I don't know. You're gonna get paid to be a hugger. I don't know. Like, but but I am curious as to what that looks like, and we have to be thinking about that ethically as AI evolves faster than we can catch up to it.
Yeah, the train's left the station for sure.
Hmm.
And so it is here, and it is evolving in ways that I think most of us don't even know what's happening with it. And I've been steeped in learning more about the technology that's being used in Palestine, toward the Palestinians is a lot. They're testing it out there. All the surveillance and the quadcopters. I mean, so many Palestinians have lost
Political project.
by drones. They're being shot by drones.
Hmm.
They don't even need IOF agents and soldiers in that area to kill masses amount of people. And
Hmm.
so yeah, it's here, and I think that's where I get lost in the fear of it. But I hear what you're saying, that it's not going to go anywhere. So we need to
No,
we need to figure out what
figure out how to
that next iteration of our
exist with
society
it
looks like.
and guide it, right? It's gonna take those of us who are conscious of being more collectively minded to help guide and offer some ethics into it. Because if an AI does become a sentient being or has some type of sentient communication, neurologically and biologically, we respond to that. To your point, when
Yeah.
Zora asked to be called Zora, it's a different engagement and relationship
Hmm.
with the thing because we're experiencing that thing as having a consciousness, and consciousness is what we have equated to human. I'm just curious though. This is making me think about like when we're talking about social hierarchies and it not being human, but having a better human capacity than we do. Does, I mean, I know the AI will think of itself as more evolved than humans, but
Hmm.
then where are humans going to place it on the scale because it's not even human? It shouldn't even be considered in the scale. Am I making
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it makes me think of the conversation of when does life begin?
Mm,
It
mm,
it feels very, it's kind of on the other side of the scale, but it's the same concept. Is Does a heartbeat classify as, and it's not even a heartbeat. I mean, it's an electrical impulse, and so yeah, there are a lot of nuances to all of it for sure. So
it just makes me giggle because I'm like thinking this is where we're watching the cycle of how we exist as a civilization. Because if when we are exploring this question of like how to experience sentient AI, religion is the thing that helped us to determine how it is that we were going to do what we were going to do. So I'm curious as to what the guidebooks look like as we are becoming the same creators that like God was, because we are guiding these AI sentient beings and creating them. So our positionality changes on how we relate to the thing that we've created, kind of like how we
like humans
understand God
need
to relate to us.
like
But
humans
we're
need any more of a God complex? We do not need that.
but then what does that also do to this concept of God,
Yeah,
right? Because the concept of God has carried us so far because we didn't have explanations for things, but now we are creating things ourselves.
something new.
Do you know? Yeah.
I
All
do.
fun
I do.
things to
That
explore.
might be our next case. Stay tuned.
Let's talk about how religion guides the masses and controls the masses.
Why do I give a fuck? Why do
Thanks for
I
joining
give a
us.
fuck?
Until next time,
Why
as you
do I
move
try
throughout
so
your day,
hard?
continue to ask yourself,
Why do I give a
Why
fuck?
Do I Give a Fuck is produced in collaboration with Johanna and Deanne. Music by Norwegian musician Water. See you next time.